Hi, my name is Peer Qasim Shah, and I am a Hubert H. Humphrey Fellow from Pakistan. I live in Islamabad and I work for the Higher Education Commission. Higher Education Commission is an educational regulatory body which kind of regulates the higher education sector in the country. Currently, I am a Hubert H. Humphrey Fellow in the College of Education in Pennsylvania State University, and I am studying some of the advanced courses on administration and governance and also about research design as well. I'm really enjoying the subjects, the courses. The place is very similar to Islamabad, and it's a very good experience living here. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my country, myself, and you will see different places, some archaeological sites, some tourist places that are there in Pakistan. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history as well. Pakistan got its independence in 1947. Previously, it was a British colony, and the people who contributed in the independence, like the founders of the country, one of them was Qaid-e-Azam, whose name was Muhammad Ali Jinnah, but he was given the title of Qaid-e-Azam, which means the big leader. And then the ideology behind having a country like Pakistan was the idea of Dr. Allama Iqbal. He is the national poet of Pakistan, and it was his idea to have a country whose name should be Pakistan. A lady who contributed a lot in the independence of Pakistan was the sister of Qaid-e-Azam, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and her name was Fatma Jinnah. One thing which is very familiar in Penn State and in Pakistan is that the Nittany line that we see everywhere, and a lot of places are named after that line, and it's a very famous place for taking photos. And the map of Pakistan, if you look at it, it also looks like a lion. The shape of the map, it looks like a lion. I'm going to start from the northern side. So we have Gilgit, Baltistan, and Kashmir, Azad Kashmir on the top, which makes the head and the mouth of that lion. Then we have the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab in the center. And then the two provinces towards the southern part are Sindh and Balochistan. Now, if you look at the atlas, Pakistan is situated beneath China, along with India, and on the western side we have Afghanistan and Iran, and in the south we have the Arabian Sea. The capital of Pakistan is Islamabad, where I live and work. And now I'm going to take you back in time. Pakistan is located in an area where some of the oldest civilizations happen to live. Indus is a river that flows from the northern mountains till the southern part of it, and the Indus Valley civilization used to live alongside the river Indus in different parts of the country. And there are famous archaeological and heritage sites that show the culture and their lifestyle, the way they lived. Two major cities of Indus Valley civilizations were Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Mohenjo-daro is situated in the Sindh province of Pakistan, and Harappa is situated in Punjab.
Abandoned buildings, broken walls, silence, unknown paths are the ruins of a great city which we now call as Harappa. It is said that some of the world's earliest civilizations include the Mesopotamian civilization, the Egyptian civilization, the Chinese civilization, and Indus Valley civilization. It is called Indus Valley civilization because it surrounded around the river Indus from the mountains of Himalaya till the coastal areas of now what we call Sindh and Balochistan. two of the provinces of Pakistan. So these societies lived around the river Indus, and that is why they are called Indus Valley Civilization.
You can see their engineering, the way they constructed the buildings so that they can survive even till date, the materials that they used, how they lived, their lifestyle, all these things. So now what we are going to do is we're going to show you some of the areas of Pakistan that are tourist sites, and when you go there you'll be able to see these places. So the first video is about a place called Shalimar Garden, and it's an ancient site which was a garden for the kings to come here for recreational purposes.
In the plain land of expanded Lahore city, in 1642, Emperor Shah Jahan, inspired by the gardens of Kashmir, built a garden complex near the old city of Lahore. The Shalimar Gardens. A multi-level terraced garden, imitating Kashmir's naturally sloping landscape that symbolizes earthly utopia, was built to please the royal guests.
Another video that I'm going to show you today is about Shadara complex. The meaning of Shadara is the way of king. Pakistan is also situated in a place where all these people from the Western Asia, when they wanted to come to Pakistan or the subcontinent, they used the area of Peshawar, and they used to come to Lahore and then go further. So Shadara was a place of kings where they could come and they could stay there. So they kind of imitated the land of Kashmir, and they made it very green. So let's watch this video.
Shahdara is the main entry point to Lahore from the north. It lies on the right bank of the river Ravi, across the ancient city.
Now I'm going to take you to the southern part of the country, and I'm going to show you a city called Thatta. It's in Sindh. Let's watch this video. Now I'm gonna take you to a city which is called Bahrain. Now don't confuse it with the country Bahrain. It's a city whose name is Bahrain and it's in Swat. The very northern part of Pakistan, like I told you earlier, was Gilgit-Baltistan, right? It's the most beautiful place in Pakistan.
Gilgit-Baltistan is a land of magic and majesty, the home of hundreds of wonders of nature. Though difficult to access, it is a destination worth the journey. One enters this hidden heaven tucked away in the extreme north of Pakistan through the scenic Babusar Pass or the adventurous Karakoram Highway along the river Indus depending on the time of year. An air journey subject to weather conditions can also be taken from Islamabad. The wonders of this region start right from the windy heights of the Babusar Top in district Diamar. Historical and archaeological sites are found in Diamar, such as the rock art patterns of Chilas, depicting Near Eastern art traditions. The altar rock depicting warrior images reminiscent of Western Iranian influences is situated near Thalpan Bridge. Diamar is also home to the aptly named alpine pasture of Fairy Meadows at the foot of the formidable Nanga Parbat, the second highest peak in Pakistan, also dubbed the Killer Mountain due to the extreme challenge it presents to climbers. District Astor along the KKH has beautiful waterfalls, rivers and lakes. Rama Lake is quite famous and one of the main attractions of the region. Astor is also known for its beautiful forests of pine and deodar. Dirle Lake is also worth visiting and provides excellent fishing points. Village Tarishing near Nanga Parbat is also frequented by tourists. The entire region is enchantingly beautiful with its fairy tale-like atmosphere.
I took you back in time where you saw the ancient civilizations, and then I showed you the places that are there today. You know, tourists from different parts of the world, they come and visit these places. I hope you'll also come to Pakistan someday. And I'm also very thankful to the Pakistan Tourism Development Corporation, which let us use their pictures and videos. I have two sons. The first one, his name is Peer Muhammad Shah, and he's 4-year-old. He's studying in kindergarten, but these days he's taking the online courses. I hope the schools will reopen soon. And my second son is 2 months old. His name is Peer Mahad Shah. I work and live in Islamabad. Islamabad is one of the most beautiful capital cities of the world. And why? What makes it so beautiful? It's the greenery, the trees, the Margala Hills that makes it very, very beautiful. Plus, Islamabad was originally not the capital when Pakistan got its independence. It was Karachi back then, but then they needed a capital city and they planned the whole city. So Islamabad is a city that is divided into different sectors and blocks, and it's very easy to navigate. So I really like the lifestyle, the living of Islamabad. So let me tell you about the cap that I'm wearing and this shawl. This is a traditional Pushtun or Pushtun cap that we wear in winters. And not everybody wears it, but the residents of northwestern province, which is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, it's very common over there. And also we wear a shawl to protect ourselves from winter. And it's also a traditional shawl, and most of the people in Pakistan, they wear it in the winters. So it's a cultural dress, not a formal one. Like you can wear it when you are not at your workplace or in your school. You just wear it in your home or maybe in your personal life. The working life of Pakistan, everyone will have different experiences, but I live in the federal capital where most of the people are public servants, civil servants, and they serve the federal government. So the life is very organized and systematic in a way that you have a time to come to your office, then you have a time to go back, you have your breaks and everything. One of the things being a public servant in Pakistan is that you have a huge responsibility because you're responsible for every citizen of Pakistan. And if you work with that in your mindset, then you can easily put a lot of energy into your work. In my free time, I really like to spend time with my family. So I take my kids to different parks, zoos, or some shopping mall, maybe to different malls so that they can play video games if they want to. During the weekend, we go for cycling. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Pakistani food. Because it's a rich cultural country, which means that there are various cultures in different provinces of Pakistan, so the food is very versatile, very diversified. So if you really like spicy foods, then maybe Lahore is a good place for you where the food is very spicy, or even in Karachi, Sindh. Most of the food like biryani, which is a dish of rice and chicken, so it's very spicy. But if you do not like that much spicy food, then the northwestern side of the Pakistan, which is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, that cuisine will be suitable for you. So we'll have rice, but it won't have that much spices. There's a dish called Kabuli pulao because Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, is closed. So it's pulao, which is not that much spicy. We in our home, because I'm a Pathan, like I told you, I belong to Mardan. So we usually have the food which is not very, very spicy. But I lived in different parts of the country, so I have those experiences, and it really depends on the mood, how much spice would you like in your food. But since the ancient time, spices was one of the speciality of this area. You know, we usually take our meals on a dining table, but it really depends. At times we can just sit on a carpet with a sheet and eat on the floor, and also at times we can eat on the dining table. Depends really on the time and also on the mood where we want to sit. I live with my wife and 2 sons, and some of the families they are what we call, the extended family or the joint family. In Pakistan, we call it a joint family. So a joint family is a family where the parents live with their children and grandchildren, or the children and grandchildren live with their parents. Mostly it's like this. So that's like a complete family unit. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the transportation system of Pakistan. We have some of the major airports in the country which have local and international flights. Locally, we have the bus transportation system as well as the train transportation system as well. Within the city, then there are certain metros, but they are not available everywhere. Intercity, you can take a bus, you can also take a train. Usually the buses are used by people. Most of the people, they prefer within the city if they are traveling to their work, picking their kids from the school, or maybe going somewhere outside for entertainment, they'll prefer using their own vehicles. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the education system of Pakistan. Kids usually start from 3 years onwards, but if the parents prefer, or both the parents are working, they can make them take admission in a preschool as well. So in a preschool, usually a child, let's say of 2 years, onwards is admitted to a preschool. Then there's this kindergarten, and then the classes are distributed, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. First class or standard to the fifth class, it's called the primary, or the basic first 5 years of schooling. After that, till 8th, it's called elementary. And when a person studies the 10th grade, then it's called the secondary school. After secondary school, we go for the higher secondary, which is the first 2 years of college. And after the 2 years of college, then people go to universities, where they have a 4-year bachelor's or undergrad degree. And after that, there's a 2-year master's degree and a 3 years PhD degree if somebody wants to do it. We have more than 200 universities in Pakistan, more than thousands of different colleges. One thing that may surprise you, but I'd like to share, is this is what we are doing to make sure that the citizens, they get the education. I think maybe Pakistan is the only country where you find universities that are only, or schools or colleges that are only made for the girls, the women. So there will be a school for boys and a school for girls, and a co-education school as well. But just to deal with the mindset that, let's say if parents, they don't want to send their daughter to a school where there's co-education, they have the option to send the daughter to a school, a college, and a university, which is only for the women. Thank you so much for watching the documentary on Pakistan. I hope you really enjoyed some of the places that we visited, the ancient places as well as the places of today. I'm very thankful to the Hubert H. Humphrey Fellowship Program and WPSU for inviting us to share some of the things about our country, and I hope really you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching.